Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to your class, Seat Terrace 823 on Further Greek. Today, we will be treating participles. Now, participles are the most used form of grammar in Koine Greek. You may be surprised if I tell you that there is a particular verse in the New Testament that contains 6 participles. There are 14 verses in the New Testament, each one of them containing 5 participles. There are 100 verses with 4 participles, 398 verses with 3 participles, 1,218 verses with 2 participles, and 2,556 verses with 1 participle. This will tell you how widely used participles are in New Testament Greek. So for you to actually have a very good grasp, a very good understanding of your Greek New Testament, you just must master the participles and how they are used. I am Olivia Adewale, your facilitator for CRS 823. Welcome to this session on participles. Yes, you are welcome to this session on participles, ladies and gentlemen. We are working on a very, very crucial ground, and there is a need for you to understand perfectly all right what these participles are and how to deal with them. By the end of this unit, you should be able to explain what participles are, discuss the characteristics of the participles, discuss the functions of the participles, write the participles in the present, middle, and passive forms. Now, participles are verbal adjectives. In other words, they carry both the quality of a verb and an adjective. Now, you have to be very careful when it comes to the declension of the participles, because of its adjectival nature, it declined, it has gender, it has case, and it has number. So let's begin by taking a look at the present active participle of luo. Now, these are the cases. Yeah. These are the cases here. And the masculine in this column, the feminine in the third column, the neuter in the fourth and last column. So, if you look at luo, the nominative and the vocative case will be written as luon with an omega. Then the genitive and ablative will be written as luontos, which will be the same for the neuter. The dative will be written as luonti, which will be the same for the neuter. And then in the accusative, we come to luonta, and then in the neuter, you go back to luon. I know the difference between luon in the neuter, in the nominative, and in the accusative. One carries the acute accent, the other carries the circumflex. Now, you should be able, if you look at all this, and one thing that is sure is that your stem remains constant, and the stem is lu, and it is the endings that you begin to add. So all you need to do is to identify these endings and apply them in any other verb. Now, the verb to be, which we have talked about, is your verb that has to do with am, is, are, was, were. So it also has its participle form. Now, these are the participle form. if you are very observant, you will discover that the endings of the present active participle actually are the I me form. Look at it, own, usa, on. So we have to take note. You have to memorize all this. And once you have gotten this, writing out the present active participle of any verb is going to be easy. Now, characteristics of participles. Because participles are verbal adjectives, as we have said, they carry the characteristics of verb and adjective. As a verb, they have tense, they have voice. And then they may take an object, and they might also be used as an adverbial modifier. So there are 5 functions or 5 characteristics. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 characteristics of the participle as a verb. And as an adjective, they have case, gender, number. They can be used substantively. They can also be used as an adjectival modifier. So that makes it about 6 notice things: case, gender, number, substantive use, or adjectival modifier use. So when we talk about the functions, there are certain things we need to take note of. The tense and the voice. This is important in anything about participles. Now, because the time of action of the participles is indicated in relationship of the action of the participle to the action of the main verb. So let's go through this. If you are working on an aorist participle, the action in the aorist participle is antecedent to the action of the main verb. In other words, it comes before. If you are having a present participle, the action of the participle is happening simultaneously with the action of the main verb. If you are dealing with a future participle, then the action of the participle is subsequent. In other words, it comes after the action of the main verb. And if you are dealing with a perfect participle, then it means that action has become a state of being. Now let's take at this examples. Legon tauta or anthropos blepai ton kurion. Now, your participle here is a present participle and is the word legon. Now, if you look at legon, and let's look at the translation. While saying these things, the man sees the Lord. It means the saying and the seeing are occurring at the same time. Apart from this, it shows us the capability of a participle to carry a direct object, because tauta is an accusative case. So this is the direct object of the participle legon. Let's look at the second example. The daskomenos upo tu kurio or anthropos lambanai ten alethian, which will be translated, while being taught by the Lord, the man receives the truth. Yeah, even though this is a present participle, it is in the middle voice. And that is why it is translated while being. So the process of teaching and the process of receiving, it's also occurring at the same time. The following is an example of how the participle can be used as an adjectival adverbial modifier. Erkomenoi ekeruzinto oangelion will be translated as they were going, they were preaching the gospel. So it means, one, the going and the preaching are taking place at the same time, but ekeruson is actually modifying ekomenos here, which is the verb. Now, in adjectival function, the participle must agree with the noun in the gender and in the number and in the case. So let's take a look at this. O luon. Now this is masculine, singular. So the losing man, or the man who loses, or he who loses. Everything is masculine, everything is singular. Now, when participles are used in this way, they usually carry a relative translation, and that is why you have he who. The who there shows the relative translation. Now you can go through these words, but let me take you for number one. Blepo, tone, legonta, tauta. Blepo, I see. Tone, the one who is saying these things. Legonta, the one saying tauta, these things. Now, in its function as an adjective, the participle may also be used as an adjectival modifier. And when this happens, there are two possible positions. It's going to be either the substantive. So let's take a look at this. O legon apostolos, or O apostolos, O legon. The two of them will mean the same thing, the saying apostle, or the apostle who is saying. So, when participle is in the attributive position, it must be given a relative translation, the one who. When it is in the predicate preposition, that is, when it does not carry the article, it must be given a temporal translation, as in while or as. Let's look at this example. Eblepsaton apostolon legonta tauta. I saw the apostle while he was saying these things. Now, I will want you here to take 5 verbs of your choice and write out all the present participle forms of those verbs. Make sure you take this activity. In fact, pause your video here, take the activity before you go on. Good. So let's go on. Now, at this section, we'll just walk on into the aorist participle. And the first aorist active participle is here. And let's take a look at this. At the nominative, you have lusas, which is lu. Remember that the sigma is a sign of the first aorist, and then the ending is actually as. So, lusas, lusantos, lusanti, lusanta, lusantes, lusanton, lusasi, and lusantas. Now, we'll go through the feminine. Lusasa, lusases, lusase, lusasan, lusasai, lusason, lusasais, lusasas. Now, look at the neuter on your own. Compare the neuter with the masculine because they are always close. The difference usually lies in the nominative and the vocative. Okay, in the middle of the first aorist, you have lusamenos. Again, the same ending, menos, menu, meno, menon. Just take a look at all the endings. Now, the second aorist active participle. Remember that luo cannot be used in the second aorist, and that's why we are using another verb, leipo, in this case. So you now have lipon. Lipon. Remember, your stem for leipo is actually lip, and on is your sign of the participle in the masculine nominative. We have gone through all these endings before. Just get your stem, lip, and put the endings. So, in the middle of the second aorist, you now have lipomenos, lipomeno, lipomeno, the same ending. So, take care and have. All right, the kind and the time of action in aorist participles. The kind of action is punctiliar, is a one-shot action. The time of the action is antecedent to the action of the main verb. Now, in verbs other than the indicative mood, the stress is always on the kind of action. Now, this is why the augment is not present in participles, in infinitives, and in subjunctive, because it's an indication of an action in the past time. So let's look at this. O anthropos aipon tauta blepai ton kurion. The man, having said these things, is seeing the Lord. Now, as in the aorist, you discover that the saying has taken place before the seeing. So take note of that translation. Having said, in other words, after he has said these things, is seeing the Lord. The aorist passive. Now, the aorist passive is recognized by the presence of theta. So, instead of sigma, you have theta here, and we have lutais, luthentos, luthenti, luthenta, luthentes, luthenton, luthaisi, and luthentas. Now, in forming the aorist participle, the augment will be dropped and the corresponding endings will be added. So only the first aorist have the theta as a suffix and not the second aorist. So let's take note of this, and the exercise activity is the same verb you use in activity 1. Write out the aorist form of those verbs. Please, the only antidote to understanding this course is for you to practice, to study, to practice, to study. And again, that's the end of our session. See you next session.